Hey, Captain Cruncher again, aka The Fits. I guess y'all can tell by now if the intro kind of sounds like that. It's probably be about to be another slightly humorous to very humorous video. All the while educational. I guess you could say that's just a tactic I learned. Personally, if I was laughing and while something was being said or I was watching something, it usually means I enjoyed it and something about it makes the brain click and probably maybe, cements the actual, I guess, whatever it is I was watching or hearing actually, it makes it register more so you remember it. So maybe that's why I don't know, I seem to naturally just kind of like to want to make people laugh, maybe so they could listen. In all seriousness, it probably happens that way because that's the way God realizes that it actually does happen. So you do take it serious. And if you don't take it serious, you remember it and hopefully act on what you actually stored while you was enjoying yourself laughing. So this one's about predators, child predators, folks that like to prey on innocent people, naive people that don't know any better sometimes. They call that naive or I guess oblivious when you like unaware. Oblivious, I guess, it's like the extreme. You're like totally unaware. So sometimes it's maybe because something's drastic going on that you probably really should be hip to. So, like how some people say, my young black brothers and my young black sisters, I know racial person like that, so I'm gonna say young black people, young people in general, but specifically it's that this thing still seems to be going out a lot of black people. You don't know what I mean by this thing or them things. So there was a lot of wise people in sports and stuff like that making a lot of money. I could understand now why probably they tried to make it so I couldn't get in to be around some of them officially, like out there playing and getting to, know them for real and real. So they could probably still wild out from not experiencing certain things, seeing certain things. Y'all had enough role models to know that y'all supposed to pick y'all who y'all like and go sit down someplace and enjoy them instead of trying to flick in, be all over the place, fornicating and shit. But there's a price to pay for it, whether you think it is or not. Call it, I don't know, some people might say calm or this, that, and the next thing. However it happens, anyway, it could still be avoided. Nothing wrong with liking who you like and being with who you like. You don't have to have every 10 on the shelf. You got one foot, put on one pair of 10s and go about your business. Now, there's a lot of things going on. Everybody knows about how they like to, or apparently used to, be into the hollering, raping, this, that, and the next thing. I call it now the HR department. Why? There's a lot of these places you go to apply for jobs and stuff like that. When you're the one they trying to target, and especially if you don't have no proper communications and you kind of have to sometimes actually show up to these places or maybe call a lot of these places checking on your jobs and stuff like that. It seems like they've hired a team of people that, you know how they do them Karens. I forget what, there was an original video, I guess around pandemic time, I think, when I kind of got hip to the term Karen. They go out of their way to go and mess with somebody, and then at the, not even say retaliation of, them messing with somebody, just at the, what like people say, like just the acknowledgement, I guess, sometimes that they out there doing something out of place and stuff like that, they get to freaking themselves out. acting like something happened to them, calling the police and stuff like that. Like it's typical, just trying to set people up to have something bad happen to them. Yeah, they seem to have hired a lot of these Karens in some of these places that maybe you call them ugly or something like that back in the day, or who knows, whatever it is. But you apply into these places, and now because you have to reapply so often because you ain't been working, like how I do my thing, like typically after Christmas every year I try and go through who all I, at least it's a small place, go around to who I want to work for, who seems to be having something, and you just apply. Now in their head they figure ain't nobody else hip to what's going on, so they figure it's a one pinpointed area where they could probably focus their Karenry at you or on you. So now your job applications, based on the stories they're gonna start flinging around, sounds like, who you stalking? Man, you don't have a clue or know nobody inside the building or the workplace at all. You just trying to find something to do and doing your regularly, check arounds. Like how if you're in a professional environment, they always used to have these little talks and stuff that I've been on one or two of them working at certain places before. They say, oh, you do your callbacks. You have clients come in and you don't hear from them in a while. They're supposed to be rescheduled. You just check in on them from time to time and see what's going on. It's just like a business strategy. That business strategy was possibly just only a prearranged Karen strategy, knowing the Karens already had they set up plans already, trying to encourage people to annoy people, sometimes actually harass people without realizing that that's what they're actually doing, harassing people. But nonetheless, there's a Karen society out there that does this kind of thing. So you gotta be hip to that. Pause right quick. Let me go put this water on right quick. Alright, back to the game. Now, if y'all know y'all big time celebrities, whether y'all athletes or actors or whatever it is, you might just be rich in general, genuine business or whatever. And they don't like that you have the money you have, and it ain't getting to who they feel supposed to have. Some folks still feel like they own folks and stuff like that. And some of them actually apparently rightly do. Debtors kind of prison kind of vibes and stuff like that. Know people you can't pay them back, sell themselves into literal slavery trying to pay it back, and then bad mortgages and stuff like that, loan defaults and stuff. You end up owing the banks, now the banks own you, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, suppose you ain't in that category and you got a good sum of money that's just there chilling. So what do? The HR department will arrange these fancy parties for you to be around a bunch of fine girls and stuff sometimes. Sometimes they're legit girls. Sometimes they not legit girls. Depending on who you are and how God working through you. It really wouldn't matter if you got the worstest of the worstest of them Karen HR department girls. And God does happen to have you change her heart and itinerary for what they had planned for you, and you'll actually live it up really good, and whether you knew about it or not, things just work out. That ain't the case for everybody. So for those that it ain't the case for, y'all gotta be careful. So if you at these places, you already know you high profile, high cash, and all them kind of things. Whether they is arranged or not, they just actually at y'all pockets because naturally they didn't drag down the economy, so things could possibly be more reachable. And if it ain't more reachable, your money might not spread as far because you gotta probably help take care of a lot of other people that's been bubbling around in the economy, folks you care about and stuff like that. Like some people ain't just been able to get jobs and work. You want to take care of the people around you, so they try and bottom out the economy. So that's one way of trying to get back some of the money they may have, given you, which is still kind of slavery. But when it don't happen like that, you get around these girls, and I don't know where this term came from, but I've been hearing the term Becky. Back in the day, the party girls used to be, they'd watch them college movies and stuff like that, the typical, getting drunk and bust up and stuff like that all the time. Woo, 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 kind of girls, party girls, get drunk and then willing to do like whoever or whatever, this, that, and the next thing. That has become a job and a business strategy for these HR folks, all the rape department. How that works, they have these parties and full of quote unquote Beckies. Now, I'm saying this again, this ain't a racial term, but I guess the first time I actually kind of heard it, it kind of made reference to the typical girls that you would see acting like that at the parties would usually be, little teeny bopper kind of white kind of girls, high schoolers coming out of high school or whatever kind of girls that just ain't necessarily the best looking, but they quick to flicking, well, let's say, I don't know, drink nuts for excitement and stuff like that. So I guess that's kind of where the name comes from. They just cocksuckers. Not the best looking, but if you enter a good time, they ain't necessarily prostitutes like that. They just known for doing whatever to try and get them a little bit of loving, I guess. Ain't necessarily money, just some attention, love and attention. And that's the strategy they use to go through life, getting an occasional poke. And when they can't get it, then, well, they get to Becky and then maybe trying to see if they could get some, I don't know. Point remains, you get with these people, and I think the term Becky, I don't know, there used to be a bear actually around there called Becks. I don't know if that's where the term came from Becks, like the bear drinking, the European made beer, I guess the whitish kind of, party girl kind of beer, where this about drinking. Anyway, that you get with these folks, and now you, Mr. Rich celebrity person or well-to-do person with the extra cash that you've been doing some stuff for that the evil folks don't necessarily maybe want you doing it for, which is the strategy why they don't want some people to have a lot. You doing your good, but what you could, have your stuff to do it with. And now all out of a sudden, from way back behind flicking the ball somewhere, this flicking situation comes up where somehow somebody's decided that they're gonna now try and reel you in with some evidence. Now, you got children popping up. A lot of these, sports people start popping up with children here and there. Oh, this person says you got them pregnant, and then you go in court, and the only thing they going by is DNA. DNA says you are the father. Remember Maury and them used to be kicking it? You are the father, or you are not the father. Yeah, they was just going by DNA. Now, somebody had told them, if they hadn't known, I know some people know, DNA only says what it is, who it is, doesn't determine where it came from and how it was gotten. So, guys, like I said, they got their shit together. The HR department, the Karen Society, the Turkey-based Allegiant, whatever you want to call them. So apparently you've been to some kind of somewhere, and there may have been some Beckies around, even if they wasn't totally Beckying. Some chicks just still hold on to their keepsakes, as I had heard years ago. Somebody's crazy somebody kept somebody's sperm-filled condom in a nice little neat container inside their freezer for special moments. So now you're going around and you sometimes may occasionally see some person like, hey, this person looks familiar. Where I know this person from? Meanwhile, they done got a farm somewhere and somebody's freezing someplace issuing these things out to their possible Becky ring that can't necessarily get who they would have liked to, so they pay the good looking Becky, we call them Becky, not the sperm donor, although she might donate sperm. In these cases, you call them Becky, the evidence collector. So they go out there and they pop that Becks beer, and next thing you know, years later, you in court with Maury them saying, you are the father. And you need to be wise enough to tell them and or show them, if you one of them smart folks that got, your cameras set up and stuff like that, and your, private, wherever you be and stuff like that, audio or whatever. Because they ain't playing fair. So you gotta protect yourself and be able to say, okay, you may or may not deny the evidence that the DNA says you are the father. But you can then say, but you don't make children like that. Simple as that. Whether you knew the person or not, they used to try and bully some folks sometimes into acknowledging and not being able to, some of them just from not knowing their biology and stuff like that about how children are made. Plain just don't care. Been drunk and bust up two at the same time and can't remember nothing would happen also. But just because they take you to court and claiming this, that, and the next thing doesn't mean you have to be the victim and come out of your pockets to pay for what you didn't have no intentions of doing, making, wanted to make, even attempted to make in a lot of cases. So avoid them problems. Why? Because your money, like how the commercial says, it's your money. Use it how you want it out, or something like that. Yep. Now I'm probably gonna maybe get a lot of, who knows, clang and bang. But since God has started Godding around here a teeny tiny bit, it might not be as bad. But when the shame kicks in, you could imagine being the Becky years later and probably trying to quote unquote live your quote unquote attempted wholesome semen life years after, and then the glitch hit and you decide you need a paycheck, and you go and dig it up in your references and your files of your evidence collection pool or whatever they call it. I don't know who file you gonna put, try and see who you could cash in. And then it turns out that nope, that was Becky, the evidence collector. That works in your favor when people know the history of some of these folks, but assuming they don't, cover yourselves and know that no, DNA don't seal your fate. Intent, an actual act of something that creates a child, is what actually does it. If you did grind them, then that's where it gets a little bit tricky. If you happen to grind them and then they have their period at the same time, or it comes down at the same time, or shortly after, or after at all within a 9-month period, and they pop back up on the scene years later, but they did this and they did that, and the next thing they did have a child that's around the same time does not count if they had a period at all after you've been with them. So you could throw that mess out the window. Thanks, by the way. Now, there is some situations where you be with some folks and you be like, all right, well, you've been there, and you wouldn't have, say it wouldn't have been no problem if you found out that who you've been with had something. That's supposed to happen. That's what the whole thing is technically really about. It ain't just about feeling good. That's how babies is made. And you honestly about and you'd be like, all right, well, hey, I know exactly what happened, but if it happened, they put do this, that, and the next thing. That's how some people, I guess, would do. I don't know if they're honest or not, whether they meant to want to be around the person long term, short term, whatever. Some folks just honest and be like, all right, I'm the pappy. Like how the movie say. But laws is laws, rules is rules. Whether you one of them kind or not, you could deny it or don't deny it. But if you've been there and done that, you gotta at least prepare to pay them been there and done that bills. Not let Becky win off. You could know Becky full of shit, which is usually what she is. Typically, that's kind of partly what the term means. Been drinking that Becks. So, you gotta be careful. I don't know what else I know that maybe God wanted to come off the tongue right now about that particular situation, but you could go down off the top of your head and probably just think about the amount of celebrities, males usually, whose lives kind of get all messed up and topsy-turvy. Just off the top of your head, you could probably think of probably at least a handful of people that's been in the news for this, that, and the next thing. And it already looks like they got flicking Hollywood set for flicking unholy musical chairs, like as if they trying to encourage people not to flicking get married and chill out and not fornicate and stuff like that. I don't know the last time I've heard of a celebrity in since the 2000s probably came around that hasn't been known to have been married at least one or two times whilst their previous spouse still alive. Ten Commandments. If they still alive, you ain't supposed to get married unless you caught somebody doing something. And still typically that's only on the man's side. Women, I ain't officially seeing that it says that you all have the same ability to, bounce out if you catch your man cheating. But the man can't. So y'all be careful. And stop looking at the flicking what's right in front of you. The big picture is what God's saying. Oh, the law of the U.S. states that you can legally do this and you can legally do that. Yeah, you're supposed to respect the laws of the land. That's biblical too, but that ain't the main laws. You live by the main laws. A lot of the regular laws kind of sort of fall into place too, except nowadays when I was, for the first time I could think of, in an environment where whether it was meant to as a joke or maybe some folks be still on their for the gram type shit, just doing some weird stuff just to get their reactions. For the first time heard somebody, they know who they was talking to, but it was a real enclosed space. Seemed like they was having their own discussion somewhere else. Maybe they was on the phone. Heard somebody say officially, if you want to pray, go outside. I don't know how kind of buttons that some people have that is push that has caused people to go off. But folks on that type of shit nowadays, so and every law of the land is, I guess, to be quote unquote fully adhered to. But if you're in them situations where they're trying to do so or they have made it do so, it's probably best to try and not be there anymore, because that ain't necessarily something that's one or against one or one against two. If you see in your whole entire city government decide to switch and go against you or against God, you probably shouldn't be there. Get your Dragon Ball Z tennis on and get the galloping. The abomination reach. Don't wait for nothing, just flicking get tall and ass. And then don't be around them. Like they call it lock-in. That's why this rainy days, you save up for when this bullshit start happening so you don't have to be out and about all over the place trying to rub shoulders with flicking who God trying to roast. You don't want to be around the kindling when it start getting too hot. Y'all could Google kindling. But anyways, I think that's about enough. This tea water should be kind of hot enough for me to make my tea right now. Breakfast tea. Crunch out.